Hey guys, I know that I have been AWOL for a bit, and it just got easier and easier to not do this. I know I haven't seen you since November, right before my surgery, and then I was in pain, and then I was tired, and then I just was like, out of sight, out of mind. And I know several of you mentioned it, and I know that y'all want to see that I'm alive and didn't die post-surgery. So, and I appreciate that about you guys. That's really sweet. I would hate to think you didn't care. But bad news travels fast. You would have found out. But anyway, well, I want to start. So there'll probably be a few videos because I'm catching you up from so much and a lot has happened. But I want to start with saying that God is good. God is so good. And to thank you all for your prayers. And to let you know that I had the best possible outcome from surgery that you can hope and pray for in my situation. So I'll take you back a little bit. Well, first things first, as you see, I am now growing hair. So that's exciting. I am like I'm like my husband's chia pet. So he checks on it daily, like morning and night, to see growth and to make sure the little spots are filling in. So pretty soon I'm gonna need a haircut just to make it even. But it is growing. I am getting hair. I have a funky hairline. I've always had a funky hairline. I didn't know it was funky until my daughter got it and was like, we have a weird hairline. I was like, seems normal to me. So anyway, I am growing hair, so that's exciting. I'm not going to be in that percent of people who doesn't, thank the Lord, because, wigs were not my thing. Although I have found they're less itchy now that I have some hair. But still hot with the hot flashes and everything else. I'm a lot less hot. The steroids are out of my system, mostly out of my system. I know they've got like a half-life and all that other stuff. Still retaining water, still a little bit more fluffy than usual. But when you're this fluffy, I think only I notice, really. So a little bit of that is still there. So first things first, surgery. So for surgery, it went well. Other than everybody had told me, I hadn't had a big surgery before, and everybody was like, "Oh, you'll be fine in the hospital. You don't feel anything because they give you so many drugs. You wake up feeling great." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I woke up feeling like I'd been shredded, and I woke up to what appeared to be a 20-year-old, but everybody's looking younger and younger, and I've heard people say that, and it really is true. All of a sudden you're like, are you old enough to be doing this? Anyway, she looked like 20, and I woke up going, oh my goodness. And she said, I'm sorry, your blood pressure was low, so I didn't want to give you any pain meds. No pain meds. I couldn't believe it. Everything I'd been told. Anyway, so finally got a nurse to give me some pain meds because that was excruciating. It felt like they did everything I thought they were going to do and scrape out my insides and dig up my armpit to get some lymph nodes. So, but surgery went well. I did have, I think I explained to y'all, they were going to get lymph nodes, and I explained to you what the sentinel nodes were, I believe, and that they're not special nodes, they're just the nodes that your body would go to first from a certain area, and they only know that by sending either a dye through to see if it gets picked up, like sending, putting it in your breast and seeing where it goes, lymph node, because it's a foreign thing, so your lymph nodes would grab it, and seeing which lymph nodes grab it, because the odds are those are the ones that are your stuff would go to first. So if there was cancer and it was going to leave, those would grab it initially. So they either use they either use a blue dye or they use a tracer, a nuclear tracer type thing. And they said, we're going to insert that in your nipple. That was beforehand. And I was like, that sounds horrendous. And that's the last thing my nipple was going to experience. That's what the real shame is. But, you know, I digress. I'm like going to beat it up and then cut it off, you know. So I did what they told me to. They said, put numbing cream and saran wrap, just like I do my port before I go get my infusion. So I was like, okay, fantastic. So I get there, I'm in the gown, I've got my saran wrap like a crazy person on my nipple. You know, things I never thought I would say, let alone do. And so I'm telling them, like, I've got my saran wrap covered nipple. Lady comes in, she goes, oh yeah, no, we're gonna do it above your nipple. I go, above my nipple? I didn't put numbing cream there, you know? So needless to say, it was not comfortable. But I made it. They used a tracer on me. And they took 5 lymph nodes because they kept having to go back in, apparently, because they kept being hot. So they just kept pinging. It's like ping, ping. They can hear with the Doppler. And so that meant like nuclear medicine was in there. So they took 5 lymph nodes. They removed both breasts and put in implants right then and there. And something just attacked me. I woke up feeling kind of alien-like. You know how I said they were administering chemo in hell? Okay. I also think they're going to be given drains. So, for those of you who don't know what drains are, somebody, I don't know if it was male or female, but some doctor somewhere decided, hey, I've got an idea. I've got an invention. Okay, here's what I'm thinking to help with swelling and draining of fluids and stuff at post-op. I'm thinking we just cut a hole in their side and just let it leak out. And I'm sure somebody was, you know, giving them feedback, said, well, that's messy. Like, what are you going to do with it? Oh, well, we'll put a tube in there and it can drain out through the tube. And they're like, oh, that's genius. That's genius. Like, how are we going to keep it in there, though? Like, we'll just tack it. It'll just, like, you know, maybe a stitch or two. We'll just let it hang. Just hang there for less temporary. Right? It'll be fine. And the whole medical community clapped and applauded and said, this is genius. Let's do this. Wouldn't have made it on Shark Tank. It wouldn't. I'm just saying. I'm sure that that's huge in the medical community, and the alternative is probably worse. I don't know. Would I rather be puffy and swollen for a while? I don't know. What are the side effects of that besides being swollen and puffy? I mean, you can be at home anyway. So drains. Yeah, it is just holes in your side. They just make a slit and stick about a foot of tubing in. So there's more hanging out, but there's a foot inside of you. And I had 4 of those in my torso. So you have 2 on either side. So you have 4 feet of tubing in you, just draining out into these drains that look like little grenades at the bottom. And you have to empty them, you know, morning and night or whatever. Pour them into a, you know, you have to measure them and track it. And once your body is producing fluid under a certain level, then you can get them removed. I can insert a picture here, but if you're squeamish, look away. I don't know how that's going to work, but I'm going to put it right there. So, anyway, eventually I got those out. But the horrible part about that is I am not a back sleeper. So I can't lay on my stomach because the breast. I can't lay on my sides because of all the tubes. So I'm laying there miserable, trying to fall asleep. I mean, you're in pain, but you've got things hanging out of you. It was just atrocious. Then when you get them out, it's very creepy. It was painful. It's painful at the site. It's very irritated. The nerves are very irritated and itchy. They're just very angry that they can't close up the hole, and they also don't know what's going on because it's just this continuously open hole that you're not letting close. It's very bizarre, right? I mean, when are you doing that other times? You know, so his body's kind of confused. But anyway, and my saint of a husband did the drains for me every day. I have a visitor. So he was wonderful about the whole thing and helped me so much and emptied my drains all the time. I mean, and it was no fun, right? And of course you have me yelling at you like, ow, 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 you know, and make sure you don't hurt me and stuff like that. So, so that happened. And I also had wound vacs, which is like, so I had two air tubes coming off me in this machine that you got to keep dry and charged and everything else. And a wound vac, I guess, creates a suction and relieves pressure from like gravity and weight off the wound. So I wasn't sure what it was doing. It was making some noises like little pigs every now and then. I was like, is it snorting? I wasn't sure what it was doing until they turned it off, and then it was like, and it swelled up, and it had like released all this pressure. It was kind of crazy. But anyway, yeah, when they removed them, it was just like what Dad said. You could feel it. I felt one coming from way up here, and you could feel a tube being pulled out, and I was like the whole time he's around, I was like, oh, ah, you know. And then it got stuck and on something, and he just kind of wheeled it and yanked. I'm like, what? I was like, was that the medical way of doing that? Like, I feel like that was not textbook. That was definitely not textbook. Anyway, that nightmare ended. There's still a lot of healing. You're supposed to massage him a lot. I asked him if there was like massage techniques. Was there a handout? Or he's like, do I do it just like a teenage boy? He laughed. He said, just like a teenage boy. So I was like, all right. So I'll just be like, you know, so you're supposed to massage the implants. One got hard as a rock, you know. They hurt, by the way. So like the massaging at first, I was like, you know, that was it. I've come a long way, and I finally healed. I had to do a lot of bandage changing, you know, all the stuff you do for regular surgery.